Now we're going to talk about Piaget's stages. You've already gone over the sensory motor stage, so we're going to start with the pre-operational stage, which is approximately from ages 2 to 7. And one important thing to remember as we talk about the ages that go with these stages is these are first approximate ages, that there's a lot of individual variation in when kids transition from one stage to the next, but also the transitions are gradual. It is not the case that on his or her 7th birthday, a kid wakes up and says, "Oh, now I've moved from pre-operational to concrete operations." It's a gradual transition. The kids start gaining certain skills a little bit at a time. The skills that are associated with the pre-operational stage are symbolic thought and pretend play. Those are the new primary accomplishments. So one of the main areas in which kids demonstrate these new skills with symbolic thought is primarily in the realm of language. So now I can talk about an event that happened a while ago, even though something's not right in front of me. I can still talk about it. I can talk about how I went to the monster truck rally last week, and I can talk about how I saw Gravedigger and all of the other trucks that I saw. Also, the other way that kids flex this new cognitive muscle of symbolic thought is through pretend play. Pretend play is huge during the preschool period, where kids are just practicing this I have this new schema, this new way to think about things symbolically, and I'm going to practice that by pretending. I'm going to pretend to be a dinosaur. I'm going to play dress up and be something new. And so that's really cognitive work for kids. They're building these skills through pretend play, which is why it's such an important activity for kids during the pre-operational stage. Now, the primary limitation of the pre-operational stage is centration. And centration is really an underlying feature of all of the different limitations that people talk about for the pre-operational stage. But centration in and of itself is really one-dimensional thinking, and that plays out in several different ways. But if you think about it, if I'm new to symbolic thought, this is my new cognitive skill that I've just grasped. I'm only good at thinking about it in one way at a time, If I can only think symbolically just recently, I'm not good enough at thinking about things in multiple different ways at a time. I think only on one dimension. And that plays out in terms of egocentrism, in terms of reversibility, and in terms of conservation. So I'm going to talk about each of these in turn. So the first is egocentrism. So think about it. If I can only think about something in one way at a time, which perspective am I going to choose? I'm going to choose mine. And so we refer to this as egocentrism, and it's different from the way that we talk about egocentrism in everyday language. We might talk about an adult being egocentric and mean, well, they're only thinking about themselves. They're selfish. In kids, it's something slightly different. Egocentrism among kids means it's really talking about this limitation in taking another person's perspective. It's not that I want to be selfish, it's really that it's the only way that I can understand the world is from my point of view. So what looks like selfishness in a preschooler might simply be that I genuinely only see the world from my point of view and I can't take others' perspectives. That can mean literally physical perspectives. I can't imagine what you see from your side of the room, that you can see something that I can't, or that you can't see something that I can, but also that I just can't imagine your point of view or your perspective, that you might think something differently than I do, you might know something differently than I do. Now, there are some ways in which kids demonstrate that they aren't wholly egocentric. So, for example, when an older kid is talking to a younger kid, if a 5-year-old is talking to a 2-year-old, they often change the way they talk based on their audience. They talk differently to a 2-year-old than they might talk to an adult. If you ask a kid to show you a picture, they'll actually show it to you instead of showing it to themselves. But I want you to watch this next example. This is my niece Parker. And think about how she's acting in a situation and where it might reflect egocentrism. This is called a false belief task.